Okay. So, um, so this is art and visual perception, and this is about the ninth year that I've done this class, and um, I've really enjoyed this very much. And um, the first thing I can say is that the link for the class is the way that you can reach Zoom. So the link you have to put in a safe spot. It has to be a spot where you can retrieve that link, or else there's no way to communicate. Because once this is on, I can't use my emails. I don't know how you would get in touch with me. So you have to put the link in a special spot and keep it there. Um, as I said before, you should come between 6:40 and 6:50. Okay. I think you'd be more relaxed coming then. Um, you will avoid last minute problems and it'd be just more casual. Um, if you don't come, could you let me know that you're not going to come? It's just kind of nice. I wonder where this person is. It's just very helpful. So just send a quick email and just say, I can't come, or I'm coming later. Um, Someone wrote to me about reading for the class, and I can't remember who it was. Um, and reading for the first class or whatever. So there isn't really something to read at this point. There may be later, but not at this point. But what I would recommend is after each class, you should look up an artist that you find interesting. Okay, so you should see other work of that artist. In other words, if we only show 5 slides of that artist and you find that artist interesting, look the person up. I mean, and in that way, when you do that, the class continues during the week. You should have a nice little notebook and just jot down notes. And if a subject seems interesting, look up the name of the subject and maybe just research it a little bit. But there may be something to read later. We'll see. Um, Two of the classes are going to be devoted to your presentations. And most of those presentations would be in the form of writing. And some of the writing, or most of the writing, would be in the form of an essay. Or if you want, instead of an essay, if you feel it, you could do poetry. I think whatever you feel, but something written. Um, the writing in this class has gotten better and better, and I am not entirely sure why. But in the last year, it's jumped and jumped and jumped. And I am very impressed. I'm very struck by it. So some people I've noticed in the 9 years have phobias about writing. I mean, really phobias, like writing would bring them to the hospital or they'd be in a mental institute. They tried to write an essay and they were carted away in um, chains. So what I would say is that if you have some ambivalence about writing, you should give it a shot. Just try it and see what happens. If you don't want to write, that's fine. If you want to write to me, that's fine too. But I want you to enjoy this. And I think a lot of people have had a bad experience in writing perhaps with a teacher or perhaps with a class, and they were made to feel poorly about writing. But I think that writing is a good way to stay in touch with reality and to ask yourself questions about reality. So I'm very taken with the what's happened here, and I don't quite understand why. Um, but and also the class is non-competitive, and there's no grades. There's no you're not encouraged to be snobby. So it's very casual, very casual. So you should try to do that. Um, and oh, and also what you're going to write is comparing two artists or works of art, two works of art from two different artists or two works of art from the same artist. And I will send you something about what to look for. Okay? Okay. Um, so I want to say something about the origin of this class. It seems to me to be a few new people, and maybe I haven't mentioned this in a while. But so the origin of the class, it comes in two directions. The first direction is that when I was an art student, I studied at the Brooklyn Museum Art School, which was quite a nice functioning art school. And I had a teacher who I liked a lot, whose name is David Levine. And David, besides being a very fine watercolorist and painter, did the caricatures for the New York Review of Books for many years. They are really brilliant caricatures, brilliant drawings. And one day he wanted to mix up the class a bit or give us a different format. We walked around, the class walked around the museum with him, and he spoke ad lib about some of the paintings and drawings that were on display. And it was very interesting hearing his take on a painting. And I remember in particular there was one painting that that he spoke about, which was a Degas painting of a man sitting. And I remember actually almost word for word a few sentences that he said. In fact, I think he said that in this painting, there was a whole school of art, or a few schools of art, that were cemented into this painting. And then he spoke about that. So that I thought that was fascinating, and that has stayed with me, and that influenced the idea of this class. The second thing, uh, which led me to do this, is that about 9 years ago, I'd been teaching painting and drawing for a long time, like 30 years or so. I decided to not teach anymore. I just thought it was the right time. And my wife said to me, instead of not teaching completely, why don't you do the thing that you did for many of the classes when the students were painting and drawing? You would go and bring a book to the class, and the book connected with something that the students were doing. Or you spoke about an exhibit. So I said, yes, I remember that, and it was great. And so what I would do is I'd bring a book, say it was a book about that everyone was doing a portrait. So I brought a book of which had a number of portraits. Or, for instance, someone was doing a painting, and the painting looked a bit like an artist that I like, for instance, Baltus. And the student's painting looked a bit like that. So I brought a book of Baltus in, and I said, you know, this painting you're doing reminds me of an artist. You probably don't even know who this is, but I would like to show everyone these works. And then just in an improvisatory way, I spoke about what perked me up, what excited me about that artist. And so in a way, I was really copying what David Levine did when he took these students around. And so Renee was right. And also she said, you know, if you completely stop painting and teaching painting and drawing, you might end up being very, you know, not having anyone to talk to, period, over the course of a week. And she said this might be more social, but not a great deal social. So I tried it and I really liked it. And also, it struck me that different things that we discussed were things that I have thought about. In other words, um, we're going to be speaking next time for the next 3 weeks after today about a subject that I've thought about, which is a subject called new objectivity, which in German is neue Sachlichkeit. And it's usually referred to as German art of the 1920 to 1940 period, which is called Weimar, Weimar. So I've often thought about this period, which is quintessentially German, as being a period that is connected with art in Italy, France, England, and the United States. So I called it New Objectivity and Their Friends. So this is a conversation I've had. I find it very interesting. And so what I'm doing for the first 3 classes after tonight is something that I've conversed in my head about. And hopefully you'll find it interesting. I hope you do anyway. um, so, um, okay, so the 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 class is not really a class in art history. It's really a class in the vibrations that come off works of art that hit me in a way that speaks to me greatly. So this class can be taught by many different people in many different ways. And I'm betting a lot that my way of doing this is um, coherent and solid and meaningful, not just for you, but for myself, because it implies this is what I've thought about. This is what's interesting to me. So the class, in a way, is a kind of self-portrait. So if I was doing this, and let's say I was a poet and doing this, and I really liked the poetry of Zimborska. So I would say, we're going to study Zimborska for 2 weeks because I just think she's fantastic. She's a person with a real mind. So many of you probably wouldn't know who Zimborska is. Um, Christina, I would say, probably does. Okay. And so you're all brought along on the ride, and you could say, well, Simon, I'm not so sure about this. Or you could say, Simon, this is fantastic. I wish I had known about this years ago. This is amazing. So, so it, in a way, this has to do with years and years of thinking about art and thinking about what's important. And I mean, that's probably obvious, but I should say that. Um, Okay. So, um, I always like to introduce myself and introduce you, eh, all of you, to introduce themselves. And it seems to me that then you get a take on who the other person is, who's sitting next to you, or who are the other people here. So I'm going to start, and then I'm going to just call on you based on a sequence that I have here. So, okay, so I am Simon Dinnerstein. You should call me Simon. And uh, I do my painting and drawing all the time, every day. And I'm just a candidate for OCD, and I'm pretty obsessive about this. Um, and I'm working on a painting now, which has taken me a good part of the pandemic to work on. And you'll hear more about that soon. Um, and then I want you to say what your connection is with art, or if you have a connection with art, or maybe what you do, or something that opens it up for you. And then say one or two works of art that you've seen in the last 4 to 6 months that really sent you, really, really turned you around. And that could be a painting, it could be a drawing, it could be a poem, it could be a film. Um, and it's very interesting to see what people say, to hear what people say. So if I was going to say what 2 or 3 things I saw that really got to me, I would say the three of them are films. And the first film is a film called Past Lives. Okay, I see you're smiling. So, okay, that's good. The second is a not a it's a film, but it's really it was a video uh, presentation that went over many, many days, and it's called Babylon Berlin, and I highly recommend that. That's probably one of the 2 or 3 best things I've ever seen on television. Um, and the third one is the film that I would say was the most impressive film I've seen in the past year, and it's called Anatomy of a Fall. Another smile. Isn't that great? Another smile. Good. Okay. An amazing performance by the actress who's in the film. Totally amazing. Um, and I always think that if I see something that gets to me, I have an expression that comes through my brain, which is everything that art should be about. Okay. So without further ado, we're going to go to Kathy.
Uh, this
Yuramuska.
Kathy, there's three of us.
Yuramuska.
Okay, okay.
Did I
Um,
pronounce that right? Did I
yeah,
pronounce that right?
yes,
Okay.
good,
Okay.
yeah.
You go.
So this is my, I think my fourth semester here, and I love the class. I'm sold on the class. I have an art background. I had a college degree in art, and I've been doing portraits through, I don't know if some of you know Portraits Incorporated. I've been working with them since 2005, and I teach watercolor to the UFT in person and in Zoom on Zoom. So my life is art. So yeah, so I'm happy to be back and happy to see you all here.
Thanks. Any pieces of art,
Oh,
something that struck
yes.
one or two,
Well,
one or two, or but very casual.
yeah, the one that I love, I have to visit this painting every time I go to the Met. It's called The Isle of the Dead, and it's a somber scene, a nocturne, by a Swiss artist, Arnold Blocklin, I think that the last name is,
yeah.
Blocklin, yeah. And I just love that painting. And he did several versions of it. And then Rachmaninoff loved the painting so much, he composed a piece based on that painting.
Great.
So yeah, so that's my contribution.
Excellent, excellent. Len.
Hi there, everybody. Nice to see so many familiar faces and some new ones, which is always great. I'm Len Ross. I'm from Connecticut. I love art because it's just a vacation. It's one of those things that whether I'm looking at it or sketching something down on a pad or whatever, it takes me away from everything else and takes me to its own place.
Hey, Len, it's not a vacation for me.
It isn't in a way. So three things to mention in terms of encounters. So one is up at the Harvard Museum. Just recently, I stumbled across an August Sandler photography exhibit, which is an artist, a photographer I would not have known about had we not learned about him in this class. I think just our last class. So I think that's a lovely thing about this class is you recognize things that you've seen through and with Simon that you just would have kind of walked by before. Second is I am about 17 years late to the West Wing. I've just discovered the West Wing, which I understand is referred to by some as liberal porn, but I love it. I think it's a phenomenal show, and I feel like it's been waiting out there for me to find it and get to it, and I have. And then the last thing is my girlfriend and I recently drove the 7+ hours out to Pittsburgh, and we went to the Warhol Museum, which in terms of museums dedicated to a single artist, it's really quite staggering. And Pittsburgh is fun too, but it's go to Pittsburgh just for the Warhol Museum. It's fantastic.
This reminds me of something. The very large painting that I did called a triptych, the Fulbright triptych, is owned by the Palmer Museum of Art, which is in University Park, Pennsylvania, at Penn State University. So that is on Route 80 on the direction of Pittsburgh. I think it's not as far. It's like maybe 4.5 hours.
Is that at State College?
State College, yes. So that museum has built a new building, okay? And that new building is very, very ambitious, very, very ambitious building, very expensive. And it's opening on June 1st of this year. And I don't know how long the inaugural exhibit is on for. It could be 3 months, it could be 6 months. I don't know. But in that inaugural exhibit is the painting of mine, the Fulbright triptych. So if you're looking for something to ride to see, I recommend that. On your way to Pittsburgh.
You could stay college on the way to and from Pittsburgh.
Yeah. Okay, so the next one I have is Ron. I can't hear you.
This is my third session of the class. I'm a practicing psychiatrist long after I should have retired, but I feel as though art's very much part of my life. I feel as though I'm drowning in it from everything that my deceased wife and I acquired over many, many years, but still enjoy it very, very much. Personally, I'm a photographer and cellist, amateur cellist. But thinking about things that have affected me artistically, recently, just off the top, I was deeply impressed with a quartet from Germany, the Goldmund Quartet that we saw at the Library of Congress here in Washington, D.C., where I usually hang out. And David Plylar's notes are always magnificent for those concerts, I should say. That was very impressive. I was also very impressed by seeing, I don't see a lot of movies, but I did see the film, I think the title is Everything All at Once, which won the Oscar previous year. And it struck me as a very wonderful conception, reminded me very much of the Fellini Juliet of the Spirits. I was very taken with the intensity of that work.
I, since it's fresh in my head, for you personally, I would really recommend this film, Anatomy of a Fall.
Yes, I love that. I thought it was one of the best films of the year.
Yeah.
Very definite. The other one that impressed me very much and moved me a lot was Origin, which remarkably was made in 38 days, over 2 hour film. Just a magnificent concoction.
What's the name of it?
Origin.
Okay.
It's about the writing of the book Cast.
Okay. So the next one I have here is Rita.
Hello. I am, for decades, I was a neighbor right next door to Simon Dinnerstein, and hopefully through osmosis, I found out a lot about art. I have a background in photography. I have a background teaching high school English and teaching writing. And I recently moved out to the Hamptons, where I'm doing a lot more physical activity and enjoying it very much. There are three things recently that one is the opera Carmen, that the Met's newest production, which is a modern dress production. It's been updated. I don't know if anybody's seen it, but the star, whose first name is Agul, everybody calls her Agul, is a remarkable singer. And the production was very fun, very engrossing, and very beautiful to hear. A lot of people in the audience were yearning for the original traditional production. I think this was aimed at younger people. I think the Met has to, in order to survive, draw in a new crowd. But it was, to me, a remarkable performance. Recently, I also had the good luck to find 8½, the original Fellini 8½. And I saw that, and I was just struck by how comic, how tragic, how philosophical, how timely, and how creative that movie was. It just blew me away all over again. And lastly, I read a book recently that won the Booker Prize, Paul Lynch's book, Prophet's Song. And it was a remarkable book. I don't recommend it if you are already depressed, because it's an extremely unnerving and depressing book. But it was remarkable. I don't know if anybody else has read it yet.
Had you seen 8½, before?
I had many years ago.
Yeah,
I
was,
enjoyed it so much more.
it's very impressive. Yeah. Thanks, Rita. Is David Plylar here? David? No. Okay. Kathleen. Kathleen?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, David. You should go. You should go.
Hi, I'm sorry, I'm having to. Oh yeah.
Um,
Okay, I'll go really quickly.
if you
I
could
apologize.
say,
I'm having
if
to
you could,
multitask. I've got my daughter here
Oh, okay,
so
okay, good, good. If you could say something
can you
about,
hear me at all?
yes, could you
Yeah.
say something about yourself, what you do, and maybe one or two works of art that
Okay,
you were
yeah,
impressed by recently?
sure. 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 Yeah, my name is David Plyler and I work at the Library of Congress. I'm a composer. This is in my background. I work on the concert series there. And so one of the things I came by recently that was really impressive to me that I hadn't really explored before is a composer named Aurelio de la Vega, who created a lot of different graphic scores that are very colorful and interesting, kind of in a way like George Crumb's scores are. But they had a really impressive. They're very colorful too, and we're in the process of acquiring more of his materials, and so it's kind of an interesting mix of the visual and musical. So that's one thing that came to mind, right?
How old is your daughter?
The one I have here is 4.
That's great.
So,
That's great.
yeah.
Terrific. Terrific. Um, Kathleen.
Yes, hi. Um, Kathleen Taylor. I live in the San Francisco Bay Area. So it's like 4 o'clock here, 4:30. I'm an artist and my whole life is art. I'm either producing it or going to museums or seeing it online. Just, I love art. And actually, I've been a docent in Ithaca, New York at the Cornell Museum of Art, and I've taught a little bit, but I'd rather paint than than teach. I tend to be more excited about contemporary artists. I am familiar, I know a fair amount of art history and love the old guys, but the ones that I've seen recently at the San Francisco, one was San Francisco Museum, no, well, the San Francisco Museum of Modern Art. I believe that's where I saw it. There was a show, I think his name is Kehinde Wiley. He's the fellow who painted, of course, I'm Obama, Obama's portrait. And they're, first of all, they're much bigger than I realized. They're, like almost room-sized, wall-sized. And they're very stirring. And I didn't realize that he did sculpture also. And the sculptures are, I don't know what the material was, but they're solid black. And they just, well, I mean, his talent is tremendous, but also they convey just emotion. They really moved me. The sculptures even more than the paintings. And then I recently went to a show at the Asian Art Museum in San Francisco, and the fellow's name is Takashi Murakami. And I see somebody's nodding their heads. He does, his art is I think they call it flat art. I'm not sure I entirely understand what that is, but it's kind of like Japanese anime. And he does these colorful characters and they look sweet, but the messy, then you look at the titles and like one of them, not in this show, but another one was called Radiation. And then you start looking at the characters, you realize they're like in pain, but they look so cute from a distance. And the show that I saw was Monsterized. And again, these cute characters, and then you realize they're monsters. And his idea was that all the technological things we have now allows us to be monsters, like being online, the things that people say to each other, or whatever. So they're these cute, colorful paintings, but they're all monsters. Anyway, those are the two things that I've seen recently that I really enjoyed.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. Anna. Is Anna here?
Yes, I'm right here. Can you hear me?
Oh,
Yes.
yes.
Hi.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I'm a retired principal. I'm in my third year of retirement, but while I'm retired, I found myself teaching art at the school I used to work at. And I do have, before I became a teacher, I did study fine arts as an undergrad, and painting was my passion. So as a retired person, I've returned to doing my own personal painting, which has been a lot of fun. Lots of inspirational stuff I've seen recently. I think I'll focus on two. One was at the Whitney, the Henry Taylor exhibit that just moved me. I just wish it was still there. So I saw it twice, and I just loved his work, his portraiture. He also did one of the Obamas, which was really kind of interesting. So very, very different from Kehinde Wiley, but really what a striking artist he is. And then I just went last weekend, so I have to say that everyone should go see The Taste of Things, which is the most remarkable love story I've seen in years. Just unbelievable film. Yeah, it's about food, and it takes place in the 1800s in France. And involves two chefs, but it is really cool. Yeah.
Okay, Anna left out something about her being a principal, which is that she was the principal of a very, very well-regarded independent school with a lot of that stood up for a lot of different things and a lot of
When you say independent, you mean independent
independent-minded.
minded, yeah, public
Yes.
school.
Yes, a public school that was
it's
independently
independent.
minded
Right.
and was her baby.
Yeah, still is, but I'm retired. Yeah.
Yeah, but I
Still is my baby. But I have
yes, but that's
three
important.
grandchildren there
That's
now.
important for people to know that, I think. Okay, so the next one I have is Anne Marie.
Oh, hi. Yeah, it's good I'm following a principal because, yeah, I was a teacher. I'm a retired teacher from the public school system, New York City public schools. And I had a very satisfying career in the public school system. Just very, yeah, I learned so much, you know. So, but I had studied art before I started teaching, so I'm like Anna as well. So I came to it again after, and I was lucky enough to go to have the Zoom classes with the U of T and meet Kathy Fira Moscow, which I'm sorry about pronouncing your name if I didn't say it right. And Kathy has kind of been guided by Kathy, and following her has really opened me up to my creative and my passion, so to speak. So I'm.
That's great.
Yeah, it's been who knew, who knew that just these Zoom classes were offered. I just said, oh, my friend says, oh, try it. I said, oh, okay, whatever. And here it has just been a really wonderful experience for me. So I was so fortunate in many ways in my life. I went to the MoMA today. I happened to be downtown, so I stopped in at MoMA today because I wanted to see the Monet's water lilies. I wanted to experience that again. I hadn't seen it in a long time. And so it was very satisfying to sit there and be surrounded by his water lilies. And I was thinking, what is his perspective here? Because I think you're looking up at it. You're kind of, the horizon line, I think, is at the top of the canvas. So you're really in that
Mm.
that space, that garden, and it's just amazing. It's just overwhelming to think that that came from an artist who just captured, the colors, or going from one end to the other to experience the colors that he used, from
Yeah.
the blues and greens to brown. It was just yeah. So but I saw some of the artists, Simon, that you're going to be talking about, because
Yeah.
they had the 1880s to 1940 was the fifth floor, and that's where I walked.
Oh,
So I saw some yeah. So I was happy to kind of get refamiliarize myself with with Otto Dix and Gross.
this is a special exhibit there now?
I think so. It's like every floor is a different era.
I just want to comment on your the water lilies. In Paris, there is a museum called the Orangery, and that museum is behind the Louvre. And for quite a number of years, it was closed, and it was rebuilt. And the rebuilding of this museum is very interesting. The shell was kept, and the inside of the museum was reconstructed. And on one floor of this museum are the water lilies that Monet painted for this museum. And they're in two rooms, and they completely surround you in the two rooms. And each room is very large. It's maybe 40, 50, or 60 feet long. I think this is one of the greatest things I've ever seen, like a top 10 painting experience. And so I just thought of mentioning that, apropos of what you were talking about. Let's continue. Kristen.
Hi, I'm
Yes,
Kristen.
I
I live
see
in
you.
Hoboken, New Jersey.
I see you.
Yeah. I am a preschool teacher. I teach 4 and 5-year-olds, and I do a lot of art with them. A lot of drawing, and we were just recently doing interesting collages. So I love art in that way in my job, and I also love looking at art. I don't do a whole lot on my own time, although I aspire to one day. Um, but it's fun for me to just explore. And this class I think this is my 4th class too. I think Kathy, you said that. And I really, really enjoyed it. And I feel like it's taught me to look better and think more deeply about the art that I do go see. It's interesting that you mentioned that about the Monet at the Orangery. I saw a movie recently, which I can't say is like a phenomenal movie that so the scenery in the movie is largely in Paris, and it's just beautiful scenery. And there is one scene in that museum, and I was watching the movie and was so struck by those Monets in that room with the curved walls, and I thought that is somewhere I would love to go one day. So haven't seen it in person, but saw it on a screen in a movie, and wow, it looks amazing. I would say that one thing that I saw recently at the Joyce Theater was some dance that I just found astounding. And I don't know for sure if I'm pronouncing this correctly because I don't speak French, but it was a company that was called Compagnie Hervé Koubi, Koubi, and it was called Soul Invictus or Invincible Sun. And the dancing was just the things that these people could do with their body. I walked away with my jaw
Hmm.
dropping open. It was really phenomenal. And a very usual kind of dance, a mixture of, I don't even know how to describe what it was, but hard to believe that people can do what these people were doing with their bodies.
Great, great,
Such a beautiful
terrific,
way.
terrific. Um, so Eileen, I can't hear you.
Okay, now you can, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay. My name is Eileen Isix, and I've been in Simon's class previously. I think the first class I took with you, Simon, was the one you were featuring Signorelli's work in Orvieto. I don't
Oh yeah,
remember what
yeah. That
I
was
think
that was
that
a terrific.
was.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was very much, that really drew me in to a whole new world. But I I guess I would say that I've always been an artist in a variety of modalities. Um, I'm a visual artist, a painter, but I've also been involved in dance and in music. And I'm a retired belly dancer. I danced in the Bay Area in San Francisco for about 10 years.
fantastic.
And, but the dancing is still continuing in a lot of ways. I actually was at a dance class today. Um, but as far as and I play mandolin in the Long Island Mandolin and Guitar Orchestra. It's a full orchestra where we have uh, plucked instruments instead of violins. And so I'm in the first mandolin section, which would be first violin. And it's pretty intense. And and
You have quite a skill set.
a bit too much of a skill set. It's hard to focus on what I'm doing. I'm also painting. I'm on number 15 of my Subway
Oh, that's
series
great,
painting,
great, great.
which a dance company, Dance Visions New York, is going to be featuring in a new choreography, the whole series of paintings on the Subway. So I've
Terrific.
been involved with the auditioning of the dancers, and I go to the rehearsals and see how it's coming to life, which is pretty amazing as far as the characters, because it's basically about people and portraits. And so I have to say, Simon, I don't know if it was the very last session where we were talking about Paula Rigo, and her work really affected me. I had never seen her artwork before.
I noticed that. Actually, I noticed that. That's very interesting.
I mean, it affected me so much
That's
that
terrific, terrific.
I introduced it into a dance piece I was in maybe in 2023 or 22,
Terrific.
which had to do with women's voices. And I think the piece was called Rising Up. And the piece I was in, I mean, I introduced projections of Paula Rigo's abortion series. And right behind me, when in my piece, was one of her intense works of the young girl. And I'm not going to describe it, but I introduced other paintings of hers into the other dance pieces that were being done. It was shown at the 14th Street Y in Manhattan. It also was showing at a few different other places. I also introduced Kathy Kolwitz's drawings to the show because it also, they were so evocative of the intense feeling that we wanted to convey with the work.
You know, Eileen, let's just on the wish to get everyone in. Let's
Okay.
stop here and let someone else continue because I want everyone to participate. But I'm very impressed with what you said because I thought that influenced you, that it got to you. I'm really pleased, really. So I have here Carol is next. Carol, let's just try to keep it to like a minute or two.
Yeah, quick. My name's Carol Gerstle, and I live in Brooklyn, about 2 blocks from Simon. And this is my 4th course, I think, which I've been enjoying tremendously. I am a retired lawyer, but keeping up with the theme of the class, I was counsel for the teachers union for the UFT for 20 years. So I'm in the group here. And my interest in art has always been just that I love looking at art. I don't create art at all. And I would say, asking about 2 things. So I had a chance to go and see the new Harlem Renaissance exhibit at the Met. I was both struck with, it's huge, and I was struck with the Met's recognition of how much they had left out over the years, that they would have such a huge exhibit. You just know how much was not there. There was one painting that I loved particularly because it was a Jacob Lawrence painting, but it was very abstract, very different from what we're used to with him. And that struck me. And then, as I've said in previous classes, I am a big lover of jazz music. And so I recently heard a 1-hour concert by 2 artists who I think are absolutely marvelous. One is Jason Moran, who's a pianist and one of the brightest, smartest, most wonderful musicians around, with a avant-garde drummer named Tomas Fujiwara. And they played for just an hour, slightly improvisational. I know they had worked on it before, and it was just mind-blowing and wonderful.
Terrific, terrific. Dory, do you want to participate? I can't hear you.
Go. Yeah, sure. I'm Mary.
No, wait a minute. Dory.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
All right.
I think I'll pass. I'll just say I'm a professional violinist, getting toward retirement, trying to fight it, and looking for some inspiration in other places. So anyway, this is the second series that I've been in.
Yeah, that's great. I just saw your name and I want you to.
Yeah.
So Mary.
Hi. So yeah, I am muted. Okay. Yeah. Something I did recently that was really enjoyable was I was away for a while upstate and in the Berkshires, and I went to Olana, which was the home of Frederick Church, and just walked around the grounds, and it was just amazing. Beautiful place to see the home that he and his wife built. And there's all these paths that you get this great view of all the Hudson. Fantastic. So that was something that was wonderful. And another kind of funky thing I did when I was in the Berkshires is I went to the Norman Rockwell Museum, which was really kind of a surprise. And, it's not like high art, and he's quite humble. He was quite humble about his work as an illustrator, but it was really fun and really amazing to see how much work he did. It was really kind of mind-blowing how prolific the guy was and how much it was like the period I grew up and watched, thinking how life was portrayed. So it was kind of wild. And I also went to a great poetry reading by a poet named David White, Whyte. And just beautiful poetry, really nice.
Hmm.
And yeah, I think that's enough for now.
Yeah,
And
that's great.
I've taken a couple of courses with you, Simon, and I'm just a big open mind for music and art, and so I'm glad to be here.
Terrific, terrific. Now, Marilyn, you have to mute. You have to unmute your.
Got it, right?
Yes.
Well, I'll be brief because there's not much to say about me. My name is Marilyn and I live in Brooklyn. And in regard to art, I'm not an artist. I was a school teacher by trade, not by choice. And now that I am retired, I always, in sixth grade, always something struck me. The teacher was talking about Grandma Moses and saying she didn't pick up a paintbrush till she was 90. And I come from an artistic family, but I never had, my mother felt my sister was the artist. So they pushed her into the, even though I drew well, and it wasn't something I was passionate about. And I was passionate about dance. And I don't know if you're familiar with who Paul Swan was, but he was a person who during, I think it was the 1920s or whatever, and there's Andy Warhol actually made a film of him, and he was he was considered the most beautiful man in the world, and he also was a very good artist, but he considered himself foremost a dancer. So in my heart of hearts, I maybe can dance for shit, excuse the language, I can, but that is who what my spirit is. Now, but recently, this is why I'm here. During the pandemic, I had to keep busy, and I've always had a love-hate relationship with photography. And right now, that is what my passion is, photography. When I was growing up, it's funny because my Aunt Diana used to say, tell me what I was like as a little baby. And she used to say, you went around saying, light, light. And one thing I realize about myself is when I look at everything, I see everything. This is the last thing I'm going to probably say. Everything in front of my eyes, except for what we're doing. But when I live in Brooklyn, very vibrant, it's always a movie. I'm always seeing things as a movie. And I used to be embarrassed by my mom because we didn't have a car and we would ride on the subway. And she would stare at the people right opposite us, you know? And I'd say, oh my God, I'm so embarrassed. But she was soaking everything in. And I realized that I got that unique ability of also of being observant. So, and I think I just mentioned recently, I took an interest in, I went out and bought some water paints because that's a field I'd like to pursue since I live by the ocean and every day, and I photograph it, the daily, the art, it's what do you call it? Art that changes every day, move that, whatever it is. Anyway, that's me.
Good.
And
good.
this is my first class.
Good. Okay. So, Bruni?
Yes, I'll keep it quite short. I do have a degree in art and experimenting.
Excuse
I
me.
feel like I'm in an echo.
But why should you press
Marilyn. Okay. I have a degree in art. I like experimenting. I like painting, drawing. I love music. I like it all. I'm so struck by this group. I think it's an amazing group. There's such passion here, and it matches my own passion for art and for having conversations about art with other artists and learning with other artists. So I'm happy to be here, and just look forward to the next few weeks and having just a great time and enjoying what needs to unfold.
Great,
That's
great.
it.
Frank.
I'm Frank McGarry. I was a music teacher at a public school and an elementary school here in Brooklyn, and I was colleagues with Simon's wife, Renee, for many years. I was also fortunate enough to be a colleague of Kristen's, who I'm happy to see here again. And I'm retired, but I still pursue music and go and see art whenever possible. And recently I've been very interested in wandering the newly renovated and opened rooms on the second floor of the Metropolitan, with just like one room to another. There's such a range of familiar and unfamiliar works that's just like a little bit of a surprise every time you walk into a different room. But one room that I've really enjoyed is the room with the 5 Vermeer paintings that are on exhibit, and I've really enjoyed spending some time there. One other really great artistic experience that I had was have had a chance to see a performance of Jelly's Last Jam at City Center last week, and I was bowled over by the amazing production, the singing, the tap dancing is amazing. The solo tap dancing, the choreography for the ensembles, just really a terrific show. And Jelly Roll Morton is such a controversial figure. He was a relentless self-promoter, one of the first early composers of jazz, and a great composer, but always claimed to be the inventor of jazz solely, to the exclusion of everyone else. But that's I guess a debatable conversation. And something else about Jelly Roll Morton is he did record about 6 or 8 hours of interviews with Alan Lomax at the Library of Congress, which are colorful and interesting to me anyway. And but anyway, that's some of my recent artistic endeavors. This is my second class with Simon, and I'm really happy to be enjoying another semester.
Great. Victoria?
There you go. Hi, everybody. So I'm Victoria, and I live in Park Slope, not next to Simon, probably about 8 or 9 blocks away from Simon. And I've taken a couple of other classes before. I skipped last fall. I may have skipped last spring too. I don't remember, but I've been retired for a couple of years. I have no formal art background. I never studied art, blah, 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 but I am a painter, and I've sort of self-taught and been just fooling around on my own. And last year I set myself that project that a lot of people do of paint something every day. So that's what last year was about for me, and it was a lot of fun. And I realized that now that I'm too old to be important, that I just really don't care what anybody thinks. So I've just been playing, which has been great. And so there's a lot of art. I try to go to a lot of shows. And I also went to the Harlem Renaissance show last week. And there were so many fabulous portraits there. You know, there are a lot of, I guess, one of the Harlem Renaissance traditions in art was portraiture, as opposed to like still lives or landscapes, that sort of thing. And there was so much fabulous work there. And 2 of the artists, and one of them, of course, wasn't a portrait painter, but 2 artists who I'd never heard of before, was this guy Archibald Motley, who just wonderful, these wonderful street scenes and club scenes and just scenes packed with interesting people and colors. And I think he worked a lot in Paris. And then this other guy who wasn't a Black artist, he was a German artist, but I don't exactly know what his connection was to the Black community, but his name was Winold Reese, and just did some absolutely magnificent pastel portraits of people. They're just so delicate and beautiful. Anyway, I may have to go back to the show if I can fight the crowds. Luckily, my partner, is a member of the Met, so we could sneak in on one of the Met previews, and it was maybe half as crowded as it would normally be. But those are two artists I was really, really happy to make the acquaintance of. So anyway, so that's me.
Great, great. So Evelyn. Evelyn? Yes. Can you say something?
Yeah,
Evelyn.
I'm just unmuting. Hi.
Okay,
So
hi.
I'm Evelyn.
Hi. Go ahead.
Okay, so this is the first class of Simon's that I'm taking. I'm looking forward to getting involved in all of the art. I'm a retired teacher, and when I retired, I got involved in museum education, and I've been a docent in a number of different museums up through the present. And just in terms of an artist that I've been looking at, I recently read a book about the Weimar Republic. So those artists who operated during that time, I'm able to look at them, I think, with new eyes and just sort of a deeper understanding. George Gross in particular, and I know he's one of the guys we're going to be talking about. So that's it, and it's very nice to meet all of you.
Thank you. Thank you. Very beautifully said. And I'm sorry you had to wait so long, Christina, but we're all ears. Christina? Hello? Hello? I'm sorry you had to wait so long.
Yeah. Can you hear me? Yeah, the rest of the class isn't. Oh, no worries. That's fine. Yeah, so I'm a writer, mostly poetry, some essays, and I translate from Swedish to English poems and also art essays. And I love visual art. I'm very tactile and very, I guess visually oriented. So I'm always going to galleries and museums. I live in New York, and I think the two things that I've seen recently, late last fall, I was up at Mass MoCA, and I've always enjoyed the work of Anselm Kiefer, but it was the first time I had been in that big installation, which just really, he always awes me. And there was this lead bed, which was really quite devastating and remarkable. And then over New Year's, I was in Colorado, and I went to a big retrospective of John Chamberlain, and he had done all these works in polyurethane foam, which I'd never seen, and I didn't know he had worked in that medium. I even was so moved to write an article about it anyway, but I found them really lovely. So looking forward to the class, Simon. Thank you.
Great. So I thought that for the next 5 minutes or 10 minutes tops, I'd give you a little preview of the artists that we're going to be studying, which would be New Objectivity and Friends. And so I put together one work from each of the artists, and we're going to be studying 18 of them, 6 each week. So I have 18 slides, one slide from each one, But I'm not going to spend a lot of time with this. I just want you to get a sense of the arc of the next three classes. Even though this took a while to do, I find it very interesting, and I think if you start to think about who the other people are, it makes the class have more communication. So let me see if I can do this. Okay, so this is share screen. This is this one. Okay, so so these are one image from the 18 artists that we're going to be looking at. So the first one is Otto Dix, German, 1891 to 1969. 1969 feels, I would have thought much earlier, but 1891 to 1969. This is the second one. So this is Andrew Wyeth, 1917 to 2009. And the third one is George Gross, 1893. And this is also seems very late to me, 1959. 1893 to 1959. This artist I particularly like, but I don't know if anyone here would know who this artist is. His name is Felice Casarate, Felice Casarate, Casorati, Italian, Italian 1883 to 1963. Felice Casarate. The next one is, this is also an artist that is relatively new to me, and I would doubt that anyone here would know this artist. And this is Lotte, Lotte, Lasserstein, Lasserstein. You might pronounce the name Lasserstein. Either way, Lasserstein. 1898 to 1993. German and Swedish. Very interesting artist who you should look up. This is Stanley Spencer. So Stanley Spencer, English artist, who to me looks like a friend of New Objectivity. 1891 to 1959.
What's this
Very
person's name?
Stanley Spencer. Spencer, Spencer. Very interesting man, and a play was written about him called Stanley. Very interesting play, very interesting life. Some unforgettable images, and his own person by a lot. Very
Is this a self?
influential. Yeah, this self-portrait, yeah. Very influential in terms of English art. And in my mind, influenced Lucian Freud a great deal. Okay, so this one is Italian, Mario Cironi, Sironi. Mario, Mario, Cironi. The next one is Felix Nussbaum. Felix, Felix, Nussbaum, Nussbaum. We have studied him in another class, maybe the last class or the one before. Quite an interesting person. His work fits right into New Objectivity. An amazing life. We'll speak more about him very soon. Okay, this one, this is a long name, but I have to give it to you anyway. Conazio di San Pietro. So this is Italian, 1897 to 1946. Conazio, Cognacccio, D-I, then Sanpietro, Conazio di San Pietro. So with each of these artists, as we proceed the next 3 weeks, there are 10 images for each one. And these are the first one. This is an Italian artist. I believe his first name is Antonio, and his second name is Donghi, Donghi, 1897 to 1963. This is the artist Max Beckmann, 1884 to 1950, German. 1884 to 1950, German. And this is George Tooker, 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 1920 to 2011. He was one of my favorite contemporary artists, and you'll get to see more of his work very soon. So this is Balthus, French, 1908 to 2001. One of Balthus's claims to fame is that he was born on leap year, which is tomorrow. This is a painting that is in the collection of the Museum of Modern Art, and for some reason or other, not understandable to me, they never seem to show